All right, how do we go?
Went very well, with the exception of I think I got stacked twice, and they were both just coolers. Three times, I guess. First time was potentially avoidable. Kind of, kind of not. I was bound to lose a big one in the first one, but it didn't have to be all in as I checked in bio.
Okay. All right. So where are we at? 20.
I have the official results.
Yeah, what
I
was
think
the official result?
for Josh.
So should be so 19 binds plus another five. Is that right? It's 24
Yeah, Poker
binds.
Tracker's missing some hands. There are some hands missing from this sample. But the official tally, which is based on the transaction history, is I'm up 1,781 big blinds raked, and then rakeless. Rakeless is going to be, let's quick at this, 2,359 rakeless. So we're up around 24 binds.
All right. Okay. Uh, yeah, I mean the main thing here is that your red line is so positive. So that's probably yeah. I mean the fact that this red line is just so positive means that there's some serious issues in Brown's play. Like if we look at the red line by itself in terms of like a BB 100, this red line is you're redlining him at like what would this be like 18, 17, 18 BB per 100, which is
Yeah,
like
it's north of
it's
15.
it's very difficult for him to overcome that with blue line and heads up. Um,
Mhm.
so there's
I think
some
part of the
serious
red
wrong in
line.
the play.
I think a big part of the red line, and I think we identified um, in our last session that Brandon was not raising the river as much as he probably should, and so that's sort of opened the door for me to value bet very thinly against him. So even if he calls the correct amount, like I'm not getting bluffed off my showdown value. Um, I'm not getting bluffed off my showdown value enough by him raising me on the river. So I just tend to value bet very thinly on the river.
Right. Which line was that where we was not raising that
I think
much?
it was just in single raise pots. We compared my river raise frequency with his river raise frequency, and his was like just over half of mine. So it was like he wasn't raising very much at all.
Yeah, okay, maybe. Um, I probably wouldn't read too much into that particular statistic just because it's very difficult to get there. So the no-turn number of hands is going to be pretty low. The stuff that I showed you in the report is stuff that you should be looking at.
Mhm.
The the fold to river two bet start to drop off now. So um fold to river. I mean fold to river check raise, fold to river dong is still pretty high. Now, did you try to implement some of the pre-flop stuff?
Um, yes. It felt as though
So
it feels as though like
you use
earlier.
the bigger size or
Yeah. So I from the get go, I had slightly increased the frequency with which I opened to 2.7, and slightly decreased the frequency at which I limped. But it feels as though earlier in the session he was really attacking that. Now later in the session, we actually got fairly deep, and I basically eliminated the limping strategy altogether and just opened to 2.7 at a much higher frequency in 2.1. And it felt as though he was not really attacking that at all. But that was later in the session, when we were a bit deeper stacked. It feels as though he threw that. It feels as though he threw bets at a very low frequency when we are deep.
yeah, that is true. The frequency does go down significantly. Um, like with the stack depth, like at 100 blind stack depth is for betting is 17%. Um, and then sort of deeper than that, it drops down significantly down to 14%, going deeper than 125. But um, you've only played about less than a quarter of the sample, 20% of the sample in that stack depth. So yeah, that is pretty low. So yeah, you can just open everything, and just
Yeah,
avoid
and I
limping altogether when
recognize
you get
there's
really
going to
deep.
be I recognize there's going to be a correlation between how deep we are and how far along in the session we are. Like we're going to be deeper as the session goes along, and it could be the compounding factor that like we're deeper, and he's also getting tired. So it's possible both are affecting his play more than stats are suggesting.
Yeah. Um, okay. So the next thing would be to implement the 3.3. Did you take a
Mm-hmm.
look at that?
Not yet. I
Okay,
probably will.
this last one is probably the new one. This is 6 3 bets, meaning that it's the range roughly the same. So here fix it between 17 and 17.5 against every open size that you have, which is probably closer to what he's actually doing or what he's trying to do um, before he gets tired, right? So
Mhm.
it might end up looking something like this, uh, right? And so, uh, yeah, this version 6 max play fixed rebate is probably the one that you want to be looking at trying to implement. Your this 3.3 size is used sparingly compared to the other ones, but when you do use it, it's usually pretty it's very polar.
Mhm. Yeah, there's
Like
like
you got
nothing in between
suited
aces and
twos
seventies.
and then yeah, like 7 days and everything else is very low frequency. Um, and then the limping strategy. Now, one thing to notice is that you should be attacking his limp raise basically relentlessly because he's been overfolding significantly against uh, against your limit three bet. So here in this simulation, it basically when you limp and then you get raised, you play three bet or fold against him. So um, something that you can probably get away with here. Um, at least later towards the session, basically just avoid the limp call and just play out of a limp three bet. Um, and then fold the trash. So that way, essentially, this limp is sort of like a bit of a trap because we know that he's overfolding to the three bet,
Mhm.
um, and because we know he's overfolding and under four betting. Like this is the range that the solvers come up with in order to try to defend these frequencies. As you can see, it's pretty pretty strange. Like it floods aces and kings and queens in order to maintain a good loss to value ratio when it does fall bet you. So um, yeah, that's what the solver has to do in order to make these frequencies make sense. I'll probably just massively overfold when they do fall bet you.
Yeah,
Like
I
here's
think
the
he's
same with the calling ranges. So yeah, just massive overfold.
yeah, it seems as though I think he's limp four bet me. Well, I limp three bet him and he four bet me twice. And I think both times he had a monster. I think it was queens and ace king was the showdown. So I would definitely lean toward heavily overfolding to the four bet. I think your intuition is
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. Um, so yeah, limp ISO just throw at him like crazy.
Hmm.
The fact is, in this particular spot, right, limp ISO, you're three betting him in position compared to every other spot where like he's three betting you, or you're three betting him out of position. So this is the only spot in the game tree where like you have an in position three bet. Um, so you should take advantage of it because it's different from the other three bet pots. And if he's not four betting you enough and he's folding, both of which are true, uh, you can basically play through better fold. Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, you would limp uh, fairly liberally. Like he has 40% because of how bad he's playing, and then um, just three bet the crap out of him. And then these other sizes are being used as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
try throw in this one. Um, the main reason why when you're throwing the 3.3, that throwing that in is because I want to see what his three bet size actually is. Because we don't really have it in the sim. So I assumed it's 13 uh, in order to keep it consistent because of the 1.5 gap between these two. I guess from 10 here to um, 11 and a half here. Um, and so I chose a 13 for this one. That could be the case. And you can see you've got like a 20% full bet frequency in this particular node as well. So pretty high full bet frequency once you open big and then you get through bet.
Got it.
Um, and then on the other hand, like if you open small and you get through bet, like you're not full betting at all, you're massively overfolding. Um, so, and that's because like the range that he's through betting here in this particular sim is the same or roughly the same across all of them. And so it makes more sense to just open big with your strong hands and small with your weak hands. If his favorite range doesn't change. Um, I mean his size has changed. So if that is the case where like his size is um his size is changing but the range is staying the same, then essentially like and plus there's like some overfolding involved. So basically not defending enough, you can essentially open a lot of your weak hands small, your strong hands big with some like added whole of bluffs that just open big and then check back the flop. And then go from there. So essentially, a lot of your weak hands will open one of these sizes, and then check back to flop, and then play that check down line that we know that he has problems with. So a lot of these hands, like you should be uh, trying to check to open pre-flop and then check back to flop more, because we know that he has this tendency of not leading the turn enough and not betting the river enough and then check folding the river. So you should be actively trying to exploit that particular line by going into that line more, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So because we know that he's like under defaulted, under defending his river line basically. That means whenever he checks you a third time, you just pot the river with your entire range, kind of deal. But also, um, on the turn, if we think that he's basically only betting all the strong hands, he was going for some check raises, in the sample, but uh, something for you to watch out for. So like instead, you can probably check back the flop, and then if he checks you a second time, you can like just overbet the turn, um, into him as your delayed C bet once he checks the second time. Um, so that would be, yeah, turn, turn, check raise. I can't find it anyway. So 7% raise frequency there. Let's just say that he called pre-flop. Yeah, his check raise on the turn here is 11.3%. Um, Not a huge sample. His fault to turn bet is pretty large, 50%. So yeah, it's one of those things where like once he checks the turn, right? Like he leaves a lot of his strong hands on the turn after you check back on the flop. Some of those hands are going to go for a check raise, but a lot of the hands are just going to fold, like fold, and then similar on the river, like basically just bets everything that he wants to get a showdown with, and then will fold everything that he doesn't want to get showdown doesn't want to get a showdown with. Just put in check fold line, and so like you should be actively trying to exploit that with your weekends here by opening and then checking back to flop and then checking back to turn, and then stabbing when he checks the third time. It's like that's where you're going to make your money back when you haven't made your hand, right? Because it's a very plus EV bluff. Like
Mm-hmm.
all the other bluffing lines, like uh uh basically nothing
The river.
compared to that this particular line. So you should basically be allocating all of your weekends into this line because it's so profitable as a bluff. So you can do that here by putting these sort of strong but not super strong hands into the small size. Sorry, weak but not super weak hands into the small size. And then like the very weak hands into the big size, and then just like use that to check back, um, flop or check back the flop and check back the turn. And yeah, don't be afraid to do a lot of checking back because in this particular sim, um, assumes that he never donks, and so uh like it's going to be doing a significant amount of checking back in each of these lines. So here, this is 56.9 when it opens small, um, when it opens medium, 58.5 when it opens medium, and 49 when it opens big. The reason why it's slow when it opens big is because it's got all the strong hands allocated to that size already.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's doing a lot of checking back on the flop, and then limp check. Yeah, 43% there. In contrast, limp raise 3-bet call check 82.4%. Right, because remember what we were saying, like he was under 4-betting under and then over folding. So we're 3-bet bluffing him with everything and then checking back the flop. That's what's going on here. Right. So basically like limping, and then when he isolates, we're playing 3-bet or fold into that with a really wide range, and then checking back the flop when he calls. So we win at pre-flop, and then when he calls, we're in a bad position. So we should be checking back the flop, and so we're going to take advantage of the fact that he's not leading out on the flop by
Yeah,
checking back.
because we've because he's overfolded the previous street because he overfolds the limp raise. That means he actually has a range advantage on most boards in the limp 3-bet line. That said, I think the solver's output, while it's useful to understand, the solver assumes that our opponent is clairvoyant, and he knows that we're essentially limp 3-betting him with garbage. I think there is like some merit to betting, not like range betting every board, but like betting, half pot or whatever, because the solver also assumes that he's going to be putting in a lot of money into the turn probe to make up for money that should have been put in on previous streets, right? And I doubt that's going to happen in this context. I doubt he's going to be like, I have a range advantage
Yeah,
on
yeah,
most
sure. If
boards. He's
if if
raising
if
me.
if you have a strong hand, yeah, then you can bet it. Like yeah, you should be probing the turn a lot. Um, yeah, if you have a strong hand, you just bet it. But like you're so rarely going to have a strong hand relative to his calling range, because his calling range is significantly tighter than your 3-bet range. So the point I'm trying to make is you just check back everything. Everything that misses,
Mhm. Yeah. Okay.
you can bet your strong hands if you want.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I think the solver also assumes that he's going to be trapping with like aces and kings, which probably not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you just check back your weak hands and then you just bet your strong hands on the flop.
Sounds good.
You would get you'd have a fairly polar flop betting range. So like you use bigger sizes rather than the small sizes. Um, like regardless of what the perceived range is, like if your actual range is polar, like you should use a bigger size. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Uh, okay, so I'll send this sim to you. You can try to implement it. Because I'm pretty sure the two things will work. The limp free betting will be significantly advantageous to you because he has no idea what he's doing, uh, as evidenced by basically his frequencies are just way off. And then this new size I want you to throw in, um, probably a little bit more than what this sim is doing and what the other two sims are doing. This is probably the more accurate one, um, in terms of what he's doing. So yeah, you give this a try and probably do it with a higher frequency, in order to
Yeah,
get
once we get deep,
a few
I'll
hands.
definitely be ramping up the both the sizings and the frequencies with which I use the big sizings.
Yeah, I mean this is happening 8.2% of the time at 100 ones deep. So imagine it will happen a bit more when you get deeper than that. Okay, so I'll send this one to you. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I
Close
have a
off?
few things that I'd like to look at. So we looked at his, I think previously we may have looked at his fold to check raise. When he bets 75% pot, specifically on a board with high cards in single raise pot. So he's the small blind. The board comes high, 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 and he bets 75%, or high, mid, mid. As long as it's not like a low board, it feels as though he never folds to a check raise. And I think we may have spoken about this before.
Yeah, I don't remember talking about this.
You don't remember?
No.
Okay. We should look at it then. Because it seems as though he uses 75% on two types of boards. He uses it on low boards and higher boards with that are connected, somewhat connected. I think,
So
yeah.
do you want two or more? Or exactly three.
Just filter for a connected board texture. So there's a straight available.
Sorry.
I think there's a way to do that. I think there's a way to filter for connectedness of the flops. Yeah. Put one or more Broadway cards, and then not one or more low cards, and then yeah, made straight as possible.
All right, so that will should do it. Yeah, call flop two about 85%.
Seems ridiculous.
14. His overall flop betting frequency on these boards is only 43%. So could be the
He's
case
using
where
bigger sizes in general, I think, is the reason why it's quite a bit lower. So he's using the 75% here, so that's going to decrease his.
Yeah, it could just be he's under bluffing. That's why he's never folding.
Yeah, so it seems as though like it's either a made hand that's, you know, at least reasonably strong enough to call a check raise, or it's some sort of draw that's also strong enough to call a check raise. Like I haven't been check raising very big on these boards. Like the pre-flop pot will be like 5 big blinds. He'll bet 3.75, and I'll check raise to like 10, which is not that big. And as far as I can tell, it's what the solver recommends. But if he's never folding, I should be going like much more polar with like just make it like 16 big blinds or something like really big.
Yeah.
Just to exploit the fact that he's it's not just that it's too strong, it's that it's also too merged. Because like if he's betting a merged range there, like all the hands in the merged range are going to be strong enough to call the check raise. Generally.
Yep. Yeah, that's what's happening here. So you can polarize, or you can just continue what you're doing and then always bet the turn.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then lastly, can we real quick, can we look at his fold to check raise after he bets the smaller size? So he has a 30% pot size. That I feel as though it's possible he might be overfolding the flop to the check raise. So I'd like to look at that, and then lastly, we can look at how often he raises my river donks, because it just doesn't seem like he's raising my river donks very often. I don't think he's ever raised my river donk.
Uh, fold to flop check raise, yeah, 61%, which is probably a bit high. Uh, Usually this would be less than 50%, right? Depends on the size of your check raise, but yeah, it seems a bit high. So you should probably be
Yeah,
check
yeah.
raising the small size a lot more.
Filters specifically for uh the 67% flop check raise, because I do use different sizes on different boards, and it feels as though the 67% size is getting overfolded against.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. It's about 60%, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's probably pretty high. And just look at the sim, for example, like bet call, check, bet third, raise 66 in the board overview, like folding frequencies would be 45%, folding frequency 50%. This is like on every board, this same line. So it was 45% folding frequency, and he is equilibrium across every board, and he's folding at 60%. Then essentially this
No, I
check
think he's
raise will,
calling. It's actually he's holding at 41.5%, right?
yeah,
Because that's
41
called.
up. My bad. Yes, so calling. So he's probably not overfolding too much. Yeah, in that particular case.
Okay, okay. Fair
If
enough.
anything, he's probably over defending
Interesting.
because it should be
Interesting.
50%, and he's going with 60%. Actually, there should be a three bet as well, 4.5%. But if you combine the two together, into being 55%, and he's defending 60%, which is probably okay given the fact that he doesn't have a three bet range.
Mhm.
Um, so
All right.
yeah,
And then the last thing, he doesn't seem to raise my river donks like basically ever.
yeah. I mean, we look at River Donks. It was only like 12, 13 hands, and he folded um like 90%. So it was 80%, 90%. So yeah, you should be doing a lot of river donking.
Okay. I did start implementing a lot of donks today. Um, a lot of min donks,
On the turn,
especially
is
on.
it? Yeah. On the turn, yeah, that's good.
I think that's it.
Yeah, you should be doing a lot of donking in the turn. This slightly high uh full flop check raise has probably got to do with the fact that he doesn't have donks in his sims in the turn potentially. Um, so it's going to end up assuming that it, if he's looking if he's reading a bunch of sims that don't have turn donks uh, in them, which I don't know if that's the case because he's donking the turn himself, so I don't really know. Uh, but if it is the case, then like he'll end up simming a flop and checking back the turn a lot, and then because there's no turn donks in the sim will want to check raise the flop a lot, and so they'll be doing a lot of calling and not as much three betting. I mean, he has only thrown about one time out of 99, which should have been closer to 4 or 5. I mean, the sample's pretty low, so I can't really tell. But either way, it's probably going to struggle against the tournament donk a lot. So yeah, just keep implementing it, and like because we discussed that you could run some sims assuming that he thinks that you're never donking and that would reflect his high. turn check back frequency, and then flip it on his head, lock in position to play that strategy, and then have out of position create the donking strategy with the min donks um, around that, and you have a really high turn donking frequency. Like running a bunch of those sims over and over again, and then learning from those will end up putting a lot of pressure on him because he's at a immediate disadvantage because he's suddenly playing a line that he doesn't know, right? So he has to make an extra decision, not just when he's facing the one big blind donk, he has to make an extra decision, not just raise, so not just bet or check, but now raise, call, or fold, which will definitely throw off his rhythm. And if you've studied it and he hasn't, then he's gonna struggle. Um, Especially given everything else we know about him.
Mm.
Marcus, do you have any questions or any comments?
Sorry, I wasn't listening too much. I also don't think I also think that's fine. We were just basically talking strategy. Anything that you'd like me to opine on?
Um, How does this look to you? This looks just like half of the course, isn't it? This is a lot of variance. I mean,
Yeah.
overall, this red line is what's going to win. Is what's going to win you the challenge. As long as this red line keeps keeps marching up the way that it's doing, you can't really do too much.
Yeah. One final comment. Tomorrow, it was supposed to be today, but tomorrow we're going to be playing for an extra hour to make up for the fact that we had a very long weekend. Um, so hopefully I can capitalize on the fact that he will very likely get tired toward the end of that. And we'll start implementing the larger sizes as well to further complicate things for him. So
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I mean, seems happy we just like shook off yesterday and like I don't know, all on the whole thing seem basically fine. Like
yeah, this graph is also a bit misleading because like the rake is
I know
taking
the
out
rake, yeah.
like 8 big blinds per 100, 9 big blinds per 100 is something crazy. So yeah,
Yeah, I
we're
don't know
up.
how to add, I don't know how to add it back in
Oh, I figured it out.
in the line. How do you do that?
So you have to go to configure
Yeah,
and then go to statistics.
you go.
Oh no, at the top next to file.
There you go. Statistics.
And then you have to make a custom stat. And I have the formula for the custom stat. Took a very long time to get right.
Yes, what is it?
So you have to click new, I think. So you have to create it. But it's fairly easy.
Yeah, can you just paste the formula into the chat then?
Yeah. I think I need to go to configure stats as well. I'll grab it. Rankless wins. Yeah. Oh, I can just I think I can just export this and send it to you. Yeah. Okay. File. Oh, there you go. I sent it over. Yeah, it took a lot of trial and error because as it turns out, ACR takes a jackpot fee, which was not included in my original stat, which I was wondering why it was off. But this one is actually, as far as I can tell, it's exactly right. It's just rake attributed plus 0.5 times the amount jackpot taken currency conversion stat.
Okay. Stats. See how that goes. Oh yeah, there you go. That's pretty.
Yeah. It should be exact in terms of, oh, I think you have to, oh, wait, what? Wasn't working. Did I send you the,
Let's we can redo this.
yeah, that's a bit strange that it didn't work perfectly. $1,000.
Yeah, this is strange. This shouldn't be below here.
Yeah, it's on a different, it's in a different
Axis. Okay.
yeah, it's always in dollars. So I'm confused as to why it doesn't work when you switch the, yeah.
No, that's why. Currency rate contributor. Let's get rid of that.
Oh.
Yeah, there we go. That's better. Cool.
Yes, there we go. And to verify that it's correct, it should be the exact same as what Brown has lost. So if you go into oh high mark, it should be exactly the same. You might have to search for it.
Yeah. I mean, if this is what he's looking at, it's not pretty.
Yeah.
That's his?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
I mean, it is just yours is inverted, but
Well,
yeah,
yes, it's heads up.
he's probably looking at this red line and I don't know. He's perplexed about what to do. But then again, he's always been a blue line player, so maybe he just expects his red line to be negative. All right. Right. I'll send you this this simulation that you can read through and try to implement it tomorrow. And we'll go from there. And yeah, try to play more of those the check down lines post flop when you're in the small blind. When you've got one of these hands that have missed, like try like actively to take those lines because we know he's weak there. And obviously when he bets, just overfold. All right.
Yeah.
Right. Tomorrow, if you guys are playing for an extra hour, I won't make it. But the day after, yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll see you again on.
Yeah. So, Marcus, maybe tomorrow, if you want to, if you think you can just debrief, just I don't know, for 15 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. Do you
after
have
the 5 hours tomorrow.
Are you doing 2.5 hour, 1 hour break, 2.5 hours? Or-
We're doing 2 hours, 1 hour break, 3 hours. So second session
Okay.
is gonna be extra long.
Okay.
Cocoa and
Yeah, we
bananas.
can just talk afterwards, I guess. Like if things are going all right. Yeah.
All right, great.
All right.
Okay. See you guys. Bye.